Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. Now before we start, I'd like to invite all of you newcomers to this channel to go ahead and click that subscribe button if you enjoy my content. Then your home feed can only get better. Now let's get started with today's main story. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user Runaway Rain. I, 28 female, hate my boyfriend's 34 male hobby. I have been with my boyfriend, who I will call James, for about 5 months now. I can honestly say that I love him. However, one thing is driving a huge wedge between us. His love of, should I say, obsession with Magic the Gathering. Due to the nature of his job, he's on the road Monday through Thursday, we only see one another 3 days a week. I freelance from home, so I mostly have an open schedule. One of those days is entirely dedicated to Magic the Gathering. I mean, we're at the shop from 3 until closing. The first one's in and the last one's out. Always. Mostly, I'm okay with this. I know hobbies are incredibly important for socialization and they improve your mental health and quality of life overall. Besides, I was made aware of this weekly tradition very early in our relationship. Therefore, I never guilt trip him into not going. As a matter of fact, I go with him despite not playing or really understanding the game because he likes having me there. Last weekend, he wanted me to do Magic Friday and Saturday night. I informed him that I could not handle 6 hours of Magic the Gathering 2 nights in a row. I told him he could still go, but I would either find something else to do or stay home and chill. He insisted he would stay with me and hang out. Important, as his daughters were in town the week before and we got 0 time alone together, if my plans fell through. To be clear, I did not pressure him into not going. I told him I would not make the decision for him. He still chose to stay. That night, he spent 4 or 5 hours playing Magic online while I sat there and tried to get him to actually interact with me. To no avail. It was always, one more game. He finally quit around 2 AM. He went to sleep before we could have sex, which is a separate but equally important issue. You see, I have a high libido and he has a low libido. We have sex about once a week, which has never been enough for me. I told him at the start that sexual compatibility was important to me, as I never wanted to feel bad for needing sex to feel close to my partner. I was led to believe he shared this view. Come to find out, we are not sexually compatible and he is either unable or unwilling to compromise with me despite numerous talks on the subject. In 5 months, I could count the number of times he has initiated sex on one hand. I can count the number of times he has gone down on me with no hands, given it has never happened. I have asked several times, the answer is always soon. I know I can't force him to be in the mood, but I'm just sick of the lack of reciprocation and feeling like we would have no sex life if I didn't push for one. He says he feels bad about not satisfying my sexual needs and ignoring me last weekend to play Magic Online. However, I don't feel any sincerity in his words because we've been here before and I expressed that I would like him to scale back the amount of magic in our relationship. Reddit, I'm at a loss. I've read this sub for years and I anticipate the sorts of responses I will get here. In fact, I know what I would say if I were on the other side of the computer screen, but I love this man. He is kind, compassionate, gentle, and loving. This is one of the easiest relationships I've ever been in terms of generally getting along. He is great with my mental health issues. I should mention that he is the first boyfriend I've had in 8 years. Almost all of my 20s were lost to me due to severe anxiety, depression, and addiction issues. I was a hermit until about 7 months ago. I would say our communication is pretty good. We discuss issues ad nauseum and we do try to compromise. I just don't see the kind of change I desire from these conversations. My main question is, how do I not grow to resent him for his inability to control his magic consumption? Is this relationship salvageable or are we too different? Additional context, he was married for 9 years. The marriage ended 2 years ago. This is the first serious relationship he has been in since, so maybe this is just growing pains? OP, this may sound harsh, but I kinda think he's in a relationship with Magic the Gathering and you're the hobby. And unfortunately, you think this is like the best boyfriend ever. You haven't been in a relationship for 8 years and you just stopped being a hermit, according to your own words, 7 months ago. 2 months after that, you got into this relationship. You have no benchmark. You have no way to measure if this is actually a good relationship or not. And from my point of view, it is not a good relationship because it is not reciprocal. And all of these half efforts that he puts to, I don't know, prove that he's a good boyfriend, like, okay, you know what? You can't handle 2 days in a row. I'll stay with you if your plans falls through. But by staying with you, I mean you sit on the couch while I play Magic the Gathering online and not pay attention to you. That does not sound like a kind, compassionate, gentle, and loving man. One that won't even do foreplay with you because, I don't know, soon? That's not an answer. And the fact that you can discuss issues for long periods of time means nothing about communication. It means that you can talk, but relationship communication, at least the way I see it, doesn't necessarily mean that you can talk about the news or something like forever. It means that you can talk about relationship stuff, things that are important to the both of you without feeling restricted or scared that the other person might take it wrong or start a fight. And they would usually lead to a compromise where there is follow through, not just empty promises or dismissals. In summary, OP, for a 5-month-long relationship, this one sucks. And I would really think if I'd like to spend more time in it. And what do you guys think about OP's situation? What would you do if you were in her shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Annette Zizi says, why the hell do you feel you have to hang around watching him play Magic for hours once a week? Do something else. And don't stay in a relationship where there's this much sexual incompatibility this early. He doesn't feel bad enough about not satisfying you that he actually does anything about it. And OP responds, small podunk town, not a lot to do. Also, I've had to start from scratch with establishing friendships. There's that too. I would prefer to just stay home and see him after, but he wants me there. We do spend an hour or so playing Pokemon Go, a game I began playing for him, but have grown to enjoy beforehand. Juan Maya says, like you said, you know what most people are going to say. Love isn't enough for a healthy relationship. You also need to be compatible in the right ways. And compatible doesn't just mean you get along well. I'm talking stuff like being compatible with your emotional and social needs, communication styles, sexual needs, values, vision, goals for the future, boundaries, commitment levels, etc. You two aren't compatible in some important ways, no matter how much you love each other. Raspberry Bliss says, you've been dating 5 months. You've hated his hobby as long as you've known him. You've been sexually incompatible for the entire duration of the relationship and you're what? Just hoping you can love him into changing? You tried dating, you're both nice people, but don't fit together as a couple. Sometimes that's how it goes. And OP responds, I haven't hated his hobby from day one. Like I said in my post, I recognize that he enjoys it and it's important to him. I've tried to be cognizant of that and have even tried to learn. He built me my own deck. It just doesn't resonate with me and he knows that. I didn't get resentful of it until it became overwhelming. The playing, the fiddling with his cards, how often he talked about it, etc. It didn't become unbearable until about 2 months ago, perhaps because there's nothing else to do in our small community. Also, I'm not trying to love him into changing, whatever that means. I know he's capable of scaling back to baseline levels, hence my trying to communicate with him that it bothers me. Rose and Valerie says, I think your boyfriend being addicted to his hobby is fixable if he really is a good person who cares about you as you claim. But there's a sexual incompatibility on top of that, and this should be the honeymoon stage. This is the most passionate sex you're likely to get from him. You thought sexual compatibility was extremely important going into the relationship. You're going to resent this in the future. I don't think you should spend any more time and energy trying to work on a relationship that will never meet your needs. Additional information from OP's comments. I've told him many times that I refuse to tell him what he can and cannot do. If he wants more magic, more power to him, but don't expect me to pretend to be happy about it. The choice of whether or not to go is up to him. but perhaps I should be more confrontational in my responses. He knows I don't like it and would like him to do less of it on our time, and I don't know what to say beyond that. To his credit, he really does try to meet me in the middle sometimes. If there's ever anything I want to do, like ice skating, he makes it happen. We sometimes go on dates after Friday Night Magic when it was warmer, and went out to the bar regularly on random day trips to the lake. I've even joined him on the road several times. To reiterate, I think part of the issue stems from a lack of viable date alternatives in our little community. Actually, he's currently at the pre-release festivities downtown. I was there for regular Friday Night Magic, but left an hour or so ago. He was super understanding of the fact that I didn't want to sit there and watch until 3 or 4 AM. Our shop did modern, standard, and pre-release starting around 11, which I appreciated. I feel a lot of this is hard. His friends definitely know I'm not into magic. He tells them I hate it. I'm sure my body language gives it away in any event. Honestly, I'm not sure he quite gets the extent of how not into magic I am. I've told him many times it'll never be my thing and expressed that this could become a deal breaker for me. Still, he's building me a commander deck, which I occasionally play badly to kill the boredom. He talks to me about cards he wants to buy, after I tell him I don't care to know, and plays magic videos in my presence. One of the more what the F moments was when he spent almost the entirety of an 8-hour drive listening to a magic tournament on YouTube. Anyway, I've asked him before if it worries him that we don't have more in common, and his response was, opposites attract. He also recently expressed he's extremely happy with our relationship. I'm concerned that's because I'm non-confrontational and I allow him to live as he did when he was single. Also, neither of us is super extroverted or have big extended group of friends who regularly get together. It feels selfish to draw clear boundaries, like telling him less magic or I'm out, when I don't have alternative ideas of what to do. I just want to be in his presence, snuggle, talk, and foster intimacy. I've asked that he put down the phone, get off the computer, and spend quality time talking to me an hour or so before bed. We'll see how that goes. Alright, well, the community tried to tell OP that this is not a good thing. OP was excusing everything, at least from what I understood, and is spinning the lack of time that they spent together to the fact that there's nothing to do in her town. I honestly still don't understand why, if she hates this thing so much, she has to be sitting there just looking at him playing cards. Like, I would understand if it was like a world championship. Sure, you go and you support your partner, but this is every Friday night. Or maybe I'm just not getting it. In any case, it's time to move on to the update to see what happened next. But if you're enjoying this story so far, please go ahead and click that like button. It does help me out. Now, let's move on to that update. So, it has been 9 months since I posted in here. I got some good advice, which I mostly ignored. Yep. But I thought it deserved an update anyway. The basis of my previous post was that my boyfriend was addicted to Magic the Gathering. He constantly wanted me to come to tournaments with him and watch him play, even though I had no interest in the game, and it was boring to me. Our problems obviously ran deeper than that. He ignored me to feed his addiction to video games, including Magic the Gathering Arena, and he lied to me about our sexual compatibility very early on in our relationship. Well, I wish I could say I walked away shortly after that post. I knew deep down I should have, but I didn't. I stayed together for almost 14 months total, and not only did the situation not improve, but it got much worse when he lost his job about 4 months ago. Still, though, I loved him, and I thought he loved me, so I stayed and tried to remain patient with him. After all, he lost his job, and that is an obvious stressor. Then he got into school an hour from our hometown shortly before our 1-year anniversary, and it was decided that we would move in together the following month when I found a job in the big city. I did that a few weeks ago, and I thought things were on track. Exactly 1 week before I was supposed to start and we were to move in together officially, he got emotionally distant, which he expressed was because of stress associated with a full-time job and taking night classes. But he never communicated any problems with us. Then, last Wednesday, he snapped at me on the way to work after ghosting me pretty much the whole day to let me know he was rethinking our relationship. We didn't get to have a conversation about it for almost an entire day. When we talked, he said he needed more time to think and would let me know what he decided by the end of the week. Then, he called and broke up with me in a 10-second phone call 5 minutes before work that same night. Like an idiot, I still clung to the idea that I could fix things if only I could show him living together would be fine. He allowed me to stay with him for 2 weeks while I looked for my own place in the city he moved to, and we decided to give it a try. I got up there and realized I hated the city and the job, and I could not emotionally handle being around a man who explicitly told me spending time with me felt like an obligation, and his video games or chill time were more important. It just hit me like a tidal wave. I left work and sobbed in the parking lot. Then, I suddenly knew this man-child was always going to be selfish and never prioritize anyone over his wants and needs. I spent the last year being the cool girlfriend who didn't rock the boat. That's a toxic concept. I put my needs to the side in order to sustain a relationship that was never going to work. One comment from my original post has remained in my head since I last read it. Quote, I know people like this and their fundamental character is selfishness. They show it by monopolizing your time and they show it in the bedroom or while they're doing their thing and you're waiting alone. This kind of just okay enough relationship is going to rot you from the inside out. You'll slowly feel yourself dying inside as you try to suppress that persistent panicked realization that this isn't right and you deserve happiness, but they can't give it to you. Get out now before you sink the next 10 unhappy years of your life. End quote. It pretty much hit the nail on the head. I knew things weren't right, but I still tried and my efforts failed. It hurts like hell still because I do genuinely care for him, but it's for the best. I've moved from the grief and denial stages into anger. I'm angry with him for being so damn selfish and being so bad at communication. But I'm mostly mad at myself for getting into a relationship with someone like him in the first place. He says we should break up, work on ourselves separately, then try to find our way back to each other, right? And I thought I wanted that, but again, he is literally never going to change. I, on the other hand, am going to find some good rebound sex with a guy who doesn't treat it as an obligation. I'm going to reconnect with my friends and use this learning experience to get my own physical and emotional problems under control, finally. I'm not doing it for him, but for myself. I advise anyone who is dealing with a significant other who has an addiction or incompatible libidos to leave if you try to talk it out and nothing changes. You can't save them, you can only save yourself. Don't be like me. Don't waste a year of your life on a selfish person who only cares about their next fix, be it drugs, alcohol, gambling, or a video game addiction. You'll find yourself miserable and alone in your own relationship, and you only have yourself to blame. Well, Peep, I guess like the old adage says, better late than never. And let's look for a silver lining. Now you know what you won't stand for in a relationship. So here's wishing you the best in the future and in your future relationships, OP. Thank you so much for sharing and take care. And now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. Definitely needed. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance and it's by user Accumulated Stress. Charge me a fee to pay online? Enjoy your trip to the bank. The property manager for my apartment recently changed hands, and the new company has a policy where if you don't set up autopay, they will charge you $10 to pay via one-time automated clearinghouse, ACH, every time. I feel extremely uncomfortable having such a large payment on autopay as I like to ensure my bank account is funded and they didn't charge me incorrectly. However, you can still pay by check with no fee and their office is only 2 doors down, so it's pretty simple to drop it off. Also, I love that it takes them around a week to cash the check, so it doesn't come out of my account right away. I'm 90% sure that they do in fact drop these checks off due to the copy of the endorsed check I see online. Either way, they aren't getting their money instantly, so I view it as a win either way. If only everyone started paying by check again, we could show these efforts not to charge senseless, greedy fees. If there is a logical reason why they should charge for an ACH, but not for an autopay of an NCH, let me know. To me, it seems like it's the same type of transaction. Well, OP, you're absolutely right, but you're making them work for their money a little bit more, so it is a win for you. Thanks for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out, so here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later, and also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.